Okay, from thinking about native advertising over to a entrepreneur and investor. So I'm really delighted to welcome June to the stage, who I met, I think, 6 or 7 years ago. And June has had a meteoric rise in terms of her role model as a kind of female investor, but also as a trailblazer and driver of change. So I'm really looking forward to her presentation, which is provocatively called, as John Doerr says, you can't invent the future. The next best thing is to fund it. June, welcome to you.
Hey, Paul, thank you for that very kind introduction. I can't believe I'm back on the stage. Great to see you again. The last time I was here, I had 99 seconds. Apparently, I have more time. My slides might beg to differ. Hi, everyone. My name is June Angelides. I'm an early stage investor, entrepreneur, and activist. And Paul will know me very well as the one who turns up in the room with babies, ready to disrupt the thinking around how mothers are perceived. And I'm a big advocate for flexible working. But today I'm on a different mission. And my mission is to get everyone thinking about how they can be part of this change in the investment landscape, how you can start thinking about empowering yourselves and realizing that you have the ability to change who gets funded. So we can't all be Zuck. I'm not telling you all to give up the day job and start your own startup, although feel free to start a side hustle. That's very much encouraged. But I really want you to help, start thinking about, how we can change the conversation around who becomes the next unicorn. We all see the stats, we see the headlines. It's the same kinds of startups getting funded over and over again. I know that on the investment side, there is still a disproportionate amount of male investors versus females. We still have an issue with not enough investors of color being at the table. And I think it's so important that more people feel empowered to feel that they can be a part of the conversation. So I think a lot needs to change. I think part of the problem is a lot of founders don't necessarily have the networks to access top tier investors. And we see that certain types of companies don't get the funding they deserve. And so just by the very nature of it, they're not able to progress. And you find that they don't proceed. So they don't have enough capital to give it a go. And this is where you come in. So today I say to you, regardless of your role, every single person can be an angel investor. And for those in the room who are not familiar with the word angel investor, it is essentially people like me and you going about our day job, but who have a bit of extra capital and want to participate in the startup ecosystem. So, there are various platforms, crowdfunding platforms you may have heard of, through Seeders, things like that allow you to participate. But also angel rounds are becoming more common, where founders are getting money from their friends and family, from coworkers, and they are now participating in deals. Sometimes we're seeing angels participate in the whole deal, and that could be you. You can come in from as little as £1,000. So I want you to start thinking about the types of companies that you could add value to. Start connecting with founders. It's easier than you might think. It's really a case of, when I think of the rounds that I've been involved in recently, I've seen so many regular people who have so much value to add to the cap table. So not just financial, you can help companies with strategy, but more importantly, those businesses who may not have had access to investors, who may not have those networks, might know you, and you have that ability to start reshaping the startup landscape. So that's my talk for today. I really want you to start thinking about that. So I'd love to take some questions about how you can get started in angel investing.
And wonderful to have you here. I think we're both pretty passionate about the early stage companies and kind of advising them or investing them. I think you've just shown there that actually it's not necessarily an unachievable thing for anybody. I think lots of people are thinking about investing in Bitcoin because they hear a good kind of example of how one of their friends did it. But maybe people kind of think about investing in companies and early stage companies is like something that you can only do once you've got to a certain stage in your career.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important that people realize that there isn't that sort of hard and fast rule about when you can come in as an angel investor. I think the EIS and SEIS schemes really make it a lot more accessible, where you've got a bit of protection on, in terms of the tax breaks that you get when you make those investments. But really, you can start from as little as 1,000. I think founders are beginning to realize that where investors add value in other ways, they're happy to take less capital from them, knowing that that sort of equity is more on the practical side of things, which is really valuable.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, we've obviously seen huge kind of change over the last 12 months. And I think early on, my view was like, oh, that's not going to be good for early stage companies with funding. But it seems like actually maybe the opposite has begun to happen, that investors have looked towards the companies that are riding the wave of ed tech or health tech or med tech or whatever. What are the interesting sectors that you're seeing new businesses jump up in that you would get people to think about?
I'm really passionate about ed tech. I think a lot of parents across the UK have experienced the pain points with homeschooling. And I think it's been a real eye-opener as to how far we've sort of left ed tech behind. Not enough investment has gone into that infrastructure. We saw the schools struggling, trying to adapt to using Zoom for their classes, and it just was not necessarily fit for purpose. And I think we need to think about investing much earlier on in these sorts of companies so that, God forbid, we have this sort of scenario again where all the kids are stuck at home. But we need to make sure that the right types of companies get that investment. They might not be attractive at the time, but they're practical. They're necessary to help the country work, as it were.
Absolutely. And if we take a break on that for a second, I remember when we met and you came in and did a talk at Havas, you brought your daughter or son, I can't remember.
It was my daughter, Ivy.
You brought your daughter with you, who was only a small baby. And I remember it being quite a poignant moment for all the women in the audience. It was like, actually, you can kind of mix your kind of working mum life with actually your passion. So I'd love for the audience, I'd love your kind of vulnerabilities of what you've experienced, because I know you've got a big family during kind of the pandemic. Like, how have you coped with doing all of the extracurricular stuff and the work stuff and having a bunch of kids to look after?
Yep, it has not been easy, but I honestly believe, when you're passionate about things, you find a way to make it work. The kids, we made it fun. We found a way to work around their work. We didn't overdo it in the sense that if it got too much, we let them have a break, and then we carried on. And in terms of all the other things that I'd like to get involved in, the mentoring, it's important to me. So I made time for it. It just meant being a bit more disciplined around my calendar and prioritizing things that were important to me, making sure I slept, making sure I worked with my coach, making sure I ate right, I did my exercise, just to keep everything sort of in check. But it meant sort of being flexible with the kids and being flexible around sort of commitments. I think work was super understanding, and we just went with the flow. I think that's really all you can do in these very strange times where no day is the same, but you find a way to make it work.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great message, Jean. I mean, I think maybe too many people, particularly mums, have set themselves these high goals of delivering the same quality education at home as the kids get at school, and it's just unrealistic. So you have to kind of, we all have to just adapt and do what we can, but don't kind of set yourself ludicrous benchmarks. So coming back a little bit more to the topic that you've introduced today, I have a question from the audience, which is, are there any good resources that you can recommend around getting started with angel investing?
Yes, absolutely. There's a great course. I encourage everyone to check out Andy Ayim's Angel Investing School. It's a fantastic program. And actually, we've seen some people come out of that and move on and start working in the venture capital world. So you can tell your employer about that. However, it's a great way to get a good grasp of the angel investing landscape. There's great groups like Alma Angels. I encourage anyone who's very passionate about supporting female founders to join. It's a great WhatsApp group. It's super active. There's about 250 angel investors on there who are, regular folk like you and me, and just curious about ways they can start learning about angel investment. There's great resources. We all sort of share insights, do due diligence together, so you will not be left alone. There is so much resources available within the group. So many angels happy to share knowledge about their journeys. Some people angel invest 2-3 times a year. You don't have to be committing £10,000 every month, but it's a great opportunity to understand the landscape and learn.
Great. Thank you for that. I'm sure lots of people will benefit from that. So there are a lot of really great female founders, and it feels like things are growing in that space. But of course, when you look at the investment that goes to male founders or mixed founders versus female-owned founders, I think I'm right in saying it's still a minority. What's going on there, and how can people try to change that dynamic?
Yeah, things are changing. I'm very excited to be a part of a group like Alma Angels that that every single person within that group is committed to changing that dynamic, making sure that the capital shifts towards a bit more equilibrium. And I think this is ultimately what I am advocating for: more representation in the types of companies that get investment. Founders, underrepresented founders from different backgrounds should have access to the same pool of capital, should be viewed equally when it comes to these investment decisions. I would say last year was a good year. I mean, in terms of Samos, I would say probably almost all the companies we invested in were female founders. I'm really proud of that. And I think everyone has to be very conscious and not just over mentors, as is often said, but actually be willing to commit capital. Women, great CEOs. It's been shown.
Absolutely. Well, and we started with the fabulous female CEO of Eve Sleep, Cheryl Cavalier, this morning. So I think we're living true to that today at MadFest. So, and also, actually, for those people in the advertising sector, which is predominantly the audience today, Anna Jones, who used to run Hearst, left with Debbie to set up Albright, which is a great kind of female-founded business. If you look, there are many great role models and many great businesses out there, right? But you just need to maybe open your eyes a little bit more and look around for them. Absolutely.
There is no scarcity of female founders. I encourage you to check out groups like FemStreet as well. Become an advocate. Twitter is a great place to find.
We both love Twitter, June.
Follow me, and I will show you the female founders.
Great. Well, look, June, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and we probably could have chatted for another 10 minutes, but unfortunately, we need to move on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
See you soon.